What's up, guys? Welcome to Wrench Capital Charts. This is the first video on the new branch off channel where I'm going old school back to how I originally started the Wrench Capital channel that now hosts the Wrench Capital show. I really enjoy this style of voiceover chart analysis, giving both the bullish and potential bearish perspective on particular stocks, and our ability to output content is now at a level where we're able to bring this back. And I'm very excited about this because I very much so enjoy doing this. So you're going to see daily uploads on this channel with relevant stocks for that particular day. So I hope to see you subscribe to this channel. I think if you found value in the videos on the Wrench Capital channel 2 to 3 years ago, I think you're going to find a lot of value here on this maybe slightly upgraded version here now with Wrench Capital Chart. So I hope you enjoy. I'm going to enjoy this very much. Let's jump in to the first stock we're going to cover, which is Netflix. Now, Netflix today posted a ridiculous earnings, setting a fourth quarter record. We're ideally going to focus on the chart and the data, but just to share with you what happened here, of course, they added 13.1 million subscribers in the fourth quarter. That's a fourth quarter record. They now have 260.8 million paid subscribers, which is absurd when you consider the world population of 8 billion. And of course, you know, the revenue expectations beat Wall Street's forecast. So when you get a combination like that, you typically get a result such as this. Netflix up about 9% here in the after hours. Now, here's what the style of these videos is going to look like. I'm going to take you guys through the 1 minute chart, the 5 minute chart, because I utilize those for intraday, the 30-minute chart, the 4 hour, and then the 2-year daily chart, which I think is incredibly useful for gaining context. We'll potentially look at volume if relevant. I want to look at implied volatility. And we'll also take a look at the options chain, which of course can provide a ton of relevant data as we move into the coming days. So starting here just really quickly on the 1 minute chart, you can see that this morning in pre-market early, we saw a bit of a pump and then a fade. And then essentially, at least comparatively speaking, you know, a lot of people would just call this consolidation for the entire day. But what we need to do to get contextual here is zoom in and cut out the big pump and really understand that this was, you know, over a 10-point channel, nearly a 12-point channel during the trading day today, with a slight kind of upside fade as we headed into the close prior to the release. Upon the release, there was no looking back. You know, when you get a combination like we saw today, you typically don't get what is typical of earnings, which is algo back and forth before making a decision. And then oftentimes what's interesting is you sometimes end up getting a reversal into and through the earnings call. So when you have a less impressive overall report, right, you may get a move like this. But oftentimes what happens is right around here or here, as we head into that call, things start to fade. And if that were the case here, you likely would have seen a fade down through 520, 510, 500, and back below turning red, which we never like to see. But what's really interesting about Netflix today, and I'll actually pull up the 5 minutes so we can actually see this a little bit better. Here in the after hours, look here. This is incredibly solid consolidation between that 530, 535 channel. It tightens down into the after hours as volume decreases. We don't see whippiness. What we saw was this incredibly high volume candle right upon that earnings release, which of course is not unexpected. But then through that volume increase that eventually fades, of course, after earnings, right? You saw the entire sample size of the market agree that this thing belongs up through 5, up through 510, up through 520, and inevitably above 530, between that 530, you know, 535 channel. The market decided tonight that's where this thing belongs heading into tomorrow. So as we head into tomorrow, let's lay out the potential scenarios here now. Looking at the 30-minute chart, you'll notice here the first thing is that volume is obviously incredibly high comparatively speaking to the last week. But something else you'll notice, and this isn't entirely because of the 30-minute chart, right? We always have to look at these things contextually. But you saw these moving averages tighten down today compared to the rest of the week, and we held them. Of course, we're going to take a look at the next couple of charts here. That'll give us more context. But even upon the earnings release, coming down, some might say testing that 200 period moving average here on the 30-minute. But of course, that's just a part of the basic initial volatility. But let's move on here. I think we can get more context by looking at the bigger charts here. So look, here's the 4-hour chart. Let's zoom in here. And you can see here that look at this 50-day. Things are starting to come together, right? We saw it yesterday. A sloppy hold, but a hold of that 50-day, that white line. Sorry, the 50 period here on the 4-hour, right? On habit, force a habit to say the 50-day. Here on the last couple of days, we're holding that very well. Today, same kind of deal. But now let's look at the granddaddy, really, in a context scenario like this, the daily chart. And let's zoom in to get a better idea of what we're looking at. So, bullish and bearish scenarios. Now understand, this does not reflect the move right yet, okay? This is only going to reflect the closing price here on the daily chart. So right now, currently, in the after hours, the stock is right up here around 534, 535. So that makes things a little different here. Now, you see here this 50-day moving average, actually the 50-day now, that white line. We've been hovering above it really the entirety of 2024 without making a true test, at least on the daily chart, where these lines become the most important, this 50-day and the 200-day moving averages that every single institution and hedge fund and retail investor and retail trader have on their charts pulled up at all times, most likely. I know I do. And we pulled away hard from that, of course, after the well-deserved earnings pump. Here's the thing. If this were below that 50-day moving average prior to this earnings release, I might have a slightly bigger problem with this move because I would be convinced that a lot of the market would be convinced, remember self-fulfilling prophecies here, that we would need to see a retest of that 50-day. But we've been hovering above it for months. I mean, we haven't made a true test since before Halloween 2023. So as far as that is concerned, I'm actually cool with it. But the number one thing that I'm really looking at here is going to be that $500 round dollar area. That's a huge psychological level that has now turned into a technical region prior to, of course, blowing through it here today on earnings. But I just want you guys to be aware, like, let's zoom out here just to get more context. I want you to be aware that retests of big levels like that after a break, like, listen, we saw a triple top for the last couple of months. It's not entirely uncommon. I understand that we're at 535, but Netflix does have a tendency to be a volatile name. And look way back here. See this? Early 2021, late 2020, right above $500 a share. That was a really, really big level of volatile interest that we could not get the market to agree upon for over a year, which is interesting to say the least. So listen here, as we head into tomorrow, okay, let's actually get this a little zoomed in. And then what we can talk about here is I want to look at, there we go. If we look at the actual levels, the stock is currently at 534. To get back down for a test of 500, you're talking about a tank off day of 6%. But let's start with from a bearish perspective, just completely unbiased here, just because we're talking about 500. You guys want to see a break downside of 500. That would be huge. A break downside, a retest to try to reclaim it as support, and rejecting hard off of 500 is what the bears would be looking for. A fade back down to test that level. Because if you're bearish on Netflix right now, you probably don't trust that $500 break. And honestly, for you bears, that would be my number one concern. Now for you bulls, here, listen here. If the stock comes in tomorrow and just worst case scenario tanks off, testing 500, I need you to understand that that's not so crazy unexpected. And it's not entirely such a negative either. It's just making a test of a level that the market would likely agree upon needs to be tested from a psychological perspective because it was such a big level in recent time. Now, this earnings report may be enough to allow us to kind of set some important levels at a higher region. Maybe that's 520. You know, hey, maybe we end up seeing continuation tomorrow and it turns out being 550. But for bulls on Netflix right now, I have one thing that I'd be looking for. Establish some kind of important level over the next 3 to 5 trading days. Really for the entirety of the end of this week, if not into early next week. And look, maybe that ends up being 530, 535 like we saw in after hours today. Honestly, that would be like my ideal scenario aside from bumping up to 550 and making that the level. Bulls, number one focus right now. Establish a level. That right there for 3 to 5 trading days, kind of claiming a level as, hey, we're going to call this our new support, at least for the time being. That is a huge sign of strength given, that reminds me of NVIDIA, a couple earnings reports ago. That would be a massive sign of strength and potential continued upside if the stock gets away with breaking up through 500 without really ever making a back test, which can happen. All right, now let's take a look at the options chain and really get some good data here. You can see here, call to put ratio is leaning slightly to the bullish side. We have approximately 56% calls today. Sample size is actually pretty decent, 325,570 total contracts. On Netflix, that's not small by any means. I like to see a sample size as big as possible on all of these stocks where we're looking at the options, just because it gives us the most amount of data possible, right? Now, the deltas, this is where we can really pry for good short-term information. See this 0 to 20 delta range? Those are the cheap, out of the money, most of the time very short dated contracts that really tells us, okay, what are the short-term speculators trying to tell us? Where are they positioning themselves? And interestingly, right now, it's actually incredibly evenly matched. 88,878 calls, 90,200 puts. They're indecisive, but we're going to need to pay very close attention to this options chain tomorrow to get a better idea of where things stand. Because listen, this updates, this is only from today heading into the close. All of this data here is from before the blowout earnings combination we just saw. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you found value in this video, please leave a like. It helps out tremendously with the algorithm, and we're doing our best to get this brand new branch off channel off the ground as soon as we possibly can. I'll see you in the next one.